Hey guys, it's Sunday, and you know what that means. Alright, let's see who we're replying to today. What? No. No. I know I had a video from Genetically Modified Skeptic I was going to reply to. Why is this loser on my screen right now? Oh my god. Okay, so it's been a little over a year since I've had anything to do with Holy Kool-Aid. But lo and behold, God must love stupid people. He sure made a lot of them. And you, Thomas, old boy, are just one of many. Okay, let's see what we're working with here.
A just deity rewards good and punishes evil with deserved rewards and punishments. Deserved being the key word. Dear Christians, by this standard, is your God just?
Yes, he is. Can I go home now?
The Bible claims again and again that God is just. But let's take a deeper look and see how he holds up to scrutiny. If I shatter your window, a just judge would make me pay for the replacement. If the judge sentenced me to a life of forced labor, the crime and the punishment would not be remotely proportional. In order for a sentence to be just, the severity and duration of the punishment must be proportional to the crime committed. Eternal suffering and damnation for a finite life of sin is not justice. Saddam Hussein murdered hundreds of thousands of his own people and had thousands brutally tortured. But even for him, even for this sadistic evil tyrant, eternal punishment is not just punishment. Just punishment for such crimes would be to be executed hundreds of thousands of times and tortured just as viciously and for just as long as he tortured others. To feel the pain and loss of their families and friends, and to live millions of lifetimes in fear, torture, and suffering. That is justice.
Now hold up. Did anyone else see what he just did there? He just switched his models of justice. In the first example, when he said, well, if I was to break your window, a just judge would order me to replace it, he's using the nowadays model of justice. However, he goes to Saddam Hussein and basically advocates for what we would today call cruel and unusual punishment by going the Old Testament route and saying, well, he should get exactly what he did to someone else. See, if he was being consistent here, he would have said that a just judge, if I was to break your window, would allow you to break one of my windows. See what he did there? See how he switched that up? But all too often here, atheists don't quite seem to understand hell, and I feel like a little bit of that blame does fall on Christian apologists because we tend to associate hell with jail or prison. And this is why I don't think atheists have quite thought this through to its logical conclusion. Let's say Saddam Hussein goes and in this hypothetical situation, God follows Holy Koolaid's sense of Old Testament justice and sends him to a dimension where he's going to live out the life of all the people he's hurt, suffer death, his citizens, the soldiers, everything that can be traced back to him, he's going to suffer now for millions of years, is what that's probably going to total up to. And I'm imagining, if I'm reading Holy Kool-Aid here right, he's going to then say, well, after that million of years, he should be let out of hell. And to that question, I would ask, what then? See, because the only other place is heaven. And this is wrong for two reasons. One, heaven is a reward. You get heaven for being a good person. Hell, in its own sense, is a reward for your evil deeds. why is Saddam Hussein going to get heaven? The fact that he served his time in hell is irrelevant. Just because he served his time does not equal now he gets heaven. He didn't do anything to earn that reward. Another thing is that, the second thing I wanted to point out there is that people don't go to hell because they were bad. People go to hell because they're evil. And the same reason God does not let Saddam Hussein out of hell after he's suffered there for 1,000,000 years is the same reason he doesn't let Saddam Hussein out of hell after Saddam Hussein has suffered 1 day in hell. Like, why should he? Evil does not change. You know, you think that most people would, generally atheists come to the conclusion, well, after millions of years in hell, he would learn his lesson. But that's not quite how that works. Hell, and sometimes even you can see this in jail, people just don't learn. They're literally labeled basket cases. They lock them in a key, lock them up in a cell, throw the key out. And quite frankly, I would have to compare this almost to, anyone here a Halloween fan? Michael Myers? I think at the end of Halloween 5, Michael Myers goes into a cell and they lock him in there. And the sheriff says he'll be in that cell till the day he dies. And then the little girl, his niece, pipes up and says, he'll never die. Now, what would you think of that? Would there ever be a time where you would let Michael Myers out of the cell? Where after, like, how long would it have to take for him to learn his lesson and to change? Well, nothing, because if you're following the Halloween lore, Michael Myers is, as his psychiatrist puts it, pure evil. He's not going to change. You might as well let him out after a day in that cell, you know, if you're going to let him out at all. Nothing about him has changed. The point here is, despite the fact that I'm using a fictional character, there are some real life people who are like this. I can't remember the name, but one guy, well, who the hell was it? He murdered his high school buddy, and then when he went to court, he had "killer" scrawled across a white t-shirt he was wearing. And he smirked and he smiled at the victim's family. And, you know, when the judge gave him a turn to speak, graphic language incoming, when the judge gave him a turn to speak, he turned to the victim's family, flipped him off, and said, I jack off to the thought of your son's death every night. How long would it take for you to let that person out of prison? Well, he got life. He's sentenced there, he's staying there. And the same reason he's staying there is the same reason Saddam Hussein is staying in hell. When should we let him out? You can argue by Holy Koolaid's logic that, yeah, you know, after he serves his time, but then where do we put him? He doesn't deserve heaven. Considering the fact he hasn't changed, he's just evil. We shouldn't let him into heaven. And of course you can go on to theorize from there. I've met people who believe in reincarnation and, you know, reincarnation and maybe he'll get a second chance. But all in all, I want to stress, because this video does go on. I'm not sure what the restrictions are on using someone else's video here, but I'm not going to risk it. He got to the point, he goes on about Ted Bundy, goes on about people in a different religion, which I feel is stupid because he even brings up, what if a kid in a religion dies? Does that kid go to hell? No, that's not even speculation of, oh, well, God wouldn't send someone who never heard of Jesus to hell. That's literally in the Bible that kids cannot be held accountable for their sins, for their actions. Well, at the end of the day, what did we learn? Holy Kool-Aid can't stay consistent with his model of justice, and he hasn't logically very well thought through justice in the afterlife. Because you don't go to hell for being bad. You go to hell for being evil. And you're never going to get out of hell if you're evil. Because if you're evil, you certainly don't belong in heaven, whether it be after a day in hell or a billion years. Evil doesn't change. And I know some people, you may not believe that. But if I may quote Metallica, sad but true. That was weird. So, whether you're Holy Koolaid or some other atheist out there who thinks that a just God wouldn't send people to hell for all of eternity, I got one question to ask you. Do you want to tell me some more BS?